So spake she, and our lordly souls consented thereto. Thus for that time we sat the livelong day, until the going down of the sun, feasting on abundant flesh and on sweet wine. Now when the sun sank and darkness came on, my company laid them to rest by the hawsers of the ship. Then she took me by the hand and led me apart from my dear company, and made me to sit down, and laid herself at my feet, and asked all my tale. And I told her all in order duly. Then at the last the lady Circe spake unto me, saying, Even so, now all these things have an end. Do thou then hearken even as I tell thee, and the god himself shall bring it back to thy mind. To the Sirens first shalt thou come, who bewitch all men, whosoever shall come to them. Whoso draws nigh them unwittingly, and hears the sound of the Siren's voice, never doth he see wife or babe stand by him on his return, nor have they joy at his coming. But the Sirens enchant him with their clear song, sitting in the meadow, and all about is a great heap of bones of men, corrupt in death, and round the bones the skin is wasting. But do thou drive thy ship past, and knead honey sweet wax, and anoint therewith the ears of thy company, lest any of the rest hear the song. But if thou thyself art minded to hear, let them bind thee in the swift ship hand and foot, upright in the masthead, and from the mast let the rope's end be tied, that with delight thou mayest hear the voice of the Sirens. And if thou shalt beseech thy company, and bid them to loose thee, then let them bind thee with yet more bonds. But when thy friends have driven thy ship past these, I will not tell thee fully which path shall thenceforth be thine. But do thou thyself consider it, and I will speak to thee of either way. On the one side there are beetling rocks, and against them the great wave roars of dark-eyed Amphitrite. These, ye must know, are they the blessed gods call the rocks wandering. By this way even winged things may never pass, nay, not even the cowering doves that bear ambrosia to Father Zeus. But the sheer rock evermore takes away one even of these, and the Father sends in another to make up the tale. Thereby no ship of men ever escapes that comes thither, but the planks of ships and the bodies of men confusedly are tossed by the waves of the sea and the storms of ruinous fire. One ship only of all that fare by sea hath passed that way, even Argo, that is in all men's minds on her voyage from Aeetes. And even her the wave would lightly have cast there upon the mighty rocks, but Hera sent her by her love of Jason. Today we are getting Circe putting things in higher definition for Odysseus. The crew has feasted and fallen asleep beside their ships. Circe is taking Odysseus aside and giving him a little bit more information about the journey home, what he can expect. Basically, she is describing here the Sirens, obviously, perhaps the last iconic thing from the Odyssey that people reference. And interesting, too, I'll bring this up once we get to the Sirens, but is Circe putting this idea in Odysseus's mind that he can listen to the Sirens? That he should listen to the Sirens? Would he have thought to do this if Circe didn't say anything? Also, I'm back on my unreliable narrator BS. Is Odysseus, in retrospect, speaking to King Alcinous, blaming Circe by saying that she told him to do it? But we'll get there in due time. She's also saying that once you pass the Sirens, you're going to have two routes to choose between. We don't get both routes in today's passage, just the first route being near the capital W wandering, capital R rocks, the Wandering Rocks, which is a perilous, the most perilous passage, it sounds, because only one ship has ever passed by. And that's saying something when even the little birdies that bring Zeus his daily meals of ambrosia can't even get by it. So the Argo, famous ship, famous crew, famous leader, Jason, was only able to get by under Hera's protection. Going back to a little bit of what we talked about in book 11, I find it interesting that with that acknowledgement, Homer is placing the Odyssey chronologically after the tale of the Argonauts. And, you know, when I think back on things like Perseus and Jason They're a bit more fantastical and feel closer to the god era than Theseus and Odysseus's tales. These feel much more, I mean, fantastic things are happening here, obviously, but they feel much more rooted in real world adventure than trying to gather a golden fleece and fighting a Gorgon. Uh, Things that are remnants left over from the gods or gods themselves that they are interacting with. Here, all of the godly stuff is kind of on the fringes and influencing the story, but not engaging directly with it. I think that's kind of interesting and curious why that is. And maybe I'm under a misconception. I'm going off of my understanding of the Perseus and Jason stories. Maybe they are a bit more rooted in reality. I have never read them. I would love to go read them. In fact, I would say that the Ray Harryhausen movies of Perseus and Jason are a primary reason I got into Greek mythology in the first place. I can't tell you how much I loved and still do love the 1981 Clash of the Titans. It's not a perfect film at all, but man, oh man, it just taps into a sense of imagination that is so awe-inspiring. One thing I want to just kind of wrap today's episode up on is that what Circe is providing Odysseus here is not a prophecy in the way that Tiresias gave Odysseus a prophecy. Like right before the Underworld chapter, book 11, Circe gives Odysseus instructions. How do you get there? Not what will happen when you get there. There's no expectation involved. She's just giving him like, here's what you can expect. Well, which is expectation, but here's the like lay of the land is what I mean. Not this is what will happen if you go here and do this, or this is what will happen if you go there and do that. She's just saying you're going to have to pass by the Sirens. And if you want to get by them, you got to put wax in your ears. She's not saying when you go by the Sirens, if you put wax in your ears, this will happen. If you do not put wax in your ears and you just get tied to the masthead, this is what's going to happen. So I think that's kind of interesting because it's a different kind of like divine knowledge, not one that is tapping into the greater weave of fate, if we want to call it that. In fact, maybe we don't call it divine knowledge so much as divine instruction. But I think it's important to separate out what Circe's doing versus what Tiresias is doing. Because then otherwise it's like, well, why go if Circe can give you prophecy, why did you have to go to the underworld at all? But I guess there's a larger question as to whether or not she's trustworthy. That might be a modern sensibility being applied to it. We'll see how Odysseus utilizes the information, instructions, and advice given to him by Circe as we move forward. So join me here tomorrow as we do a little bit more Book 12. Until then, okie dokie. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.